Today was a difficult day for me. It wasn't anything in particular. There wasn't any new drastic event in my life. I think in some ways, just the collective weight of everything that's been going on within my own personal life, and I think what's going on in the world around us. And there are times, I think, for all of us where we kind of hit our maximum. I'm not sure how much more we can take on or hold up or keep going. And I was just kind of holding on to that, just kind of, getting on with the day, doing the things that I needed to do. And then Kozan asked, how's it going? Simple question. We ask it 1,000,000 times a day. And it was a wonderful thing for me to have known Kozan for so many years that I don't want to lie. I don't want to paint over it. Not doing great. Really carrying a lot. So, as we started the sit tonight, the thought that came up, or the sort of, often I kind of open up and say, what's here? What's in the room to speak about? And what struck me was that we've just passed February 15th, which in the Zen tradition is Nehan-e, the Nirvana day. It is the ceremony, let's call it the ceremony, the memorial of the Buddha's death and his final nirvana. And so I thought, nirvana is a good thing to talk about. What is it? Because, it's one of those terms that we hear in popular culture. And as with many things, the English language tends to appropriate words from other languages and other traditions and use them in completely other ways, inappropriate ways. So I think for a lot of people who hear the term nirvana, it's synonymous, or it's used as a synonym. It is not a synonym for heaven or paradise. I hear people say, I'm in nirvana, and I always think that's a very strange thing to say. Because the word itself means kind of extinction. The image that is often used to express nirvana is as if you had a candle burning in space. I know that's technically impossible, but just imagine that candle burning in space. And as it burns, the wick is being consumed and the wax is being consumed, and it gets all the way down to the very bottom, the last bit of wick, the last bit of wax, and it's just the right amount, and the flame consumes it, and that's nirvana, the final blowing out. And it refers to the energy that we create through our living, positive and negative, like a seesaw, that everything that we do is creating these ripples that extend out in all of the directions. And in the original schools of Buddhism, the objective, I guess you could say, or the great goal was to arrive at nirvana, a stilling of these activities. Much the reverse of sort of how People in the West are brought up that like we only have this one life, and when we die, it's all over, or we go to heaven, or we go to hell, or we get sorted into whatever our our houses or whatever it is that we're brought up with. But in the Buddhist tradition, it's very much the opposite. It's that through the activities of our lives, the innumerable activities of our lives, we're constantly creating like ripples. I say the activity of our lives. The word karma that you hear so much, another word that's really popular, it means activity. And so all of these things that we do are creating action. They're creating ripples. And each one of those ripples bears fruit. And each one of those fruits inspire actions. And each one of those actions creates ripples again. And so you can see that the idea of that all of those innumerable actions finally coming to stillness is quite a big deal. As Buddhism developed, the teaching or the practice really started to shift in its focus. Some people really felt that for a person to sort of take up a practice with the aspiration to get out, as the sort of it's spoken of, to escape dukkha, suffering, as a goal for themselves, was seen as actually less than ideal. And this is where the bodhisattva ideal arose. The idea of practicing so thoroughly, awakening so thoroughly, that things come very, very still, and then you take up a vow. A vow is a very powerful action. And you take up a vow that says, I'm not going to allow things to still until all other beings in this cosmos are also coming to stillness. The endless vow of the bodhisattva. So, on days like this, where I feel down, where I feel there's too much, where I feel like, gosh, everything that I'm doing doesn't make any difference. Anything that I'm doing, it doesn't help anything. Anything I'm doing doesn't have any impact on anybody else. It's just not doing anything. It's on days like these where, just sitting, just coming back to the bodhisattva vows. All beings without number, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passions, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate, is the way that it's translated. The great way of Buddha, the great way of awakening, I vow to arrive at or attain. It helps me to shift. It's a difficult thing for me, I think, particularly being raised in this culture. My tendency is to really look for concrete results, for objectives, for outcomes, for the big shiny thing that says, ta-da, you've arrived. It's a difficult thing for me to accept and to turn into the day-to-day activity, the day-to-day practice. I've had enough experiences in my life to know that big outcomes are nourished in small deeds. Big changes are founded in very small shifts in thinking and behavior. And this idea of nourishing, feeding the path going forward. On the weekend, I was reminded of this practice, making offerings, making food offerings, and it's in many, many traditions. In the Zen tradition, we do sagaki, which is feeding of the hungry ghosts in 2 of the meals during the day. And every year we have a big ceremony where we feed the hungry ghosts. We make food offerings. And I was reminded this weekend that in English we have this wonderful word, mess. And man, today, emotionally, I felt like a mess. And I was reminded that in English, mess means 2 things. It doesn't just mean sort of like disorganized and a heap of unkemptness like I was feeling. It also means food, like a mess hall. It's a little easier to remember when you have a beard because food and mess go hand in hand. But this reminder, I think, is important because it is the mess. When we engage in this practice, at the beginning, it can be really helpful to organize our thoughts. Our lives can sort of, become more disciplined. They can become more clear. Our feelings can become more transparent, less sticky. But as our awareness develops, as we step into our lives more fully, I often find that we tend to notice the many aspects of our lives which are just a mess. Opening our eyes, not turning away, facing and confronting the many aspects of our lives, of our relationships, and of our world that are really quite a mess. And I think for me, the insight, I guess, or the reminder that I arrived at or have given myself or received through conversation is that it's this very mess that nourishes our practice, that nourishes my practice, that nourishes the Bodhisattva way. It's not clear, it's not easy, it doesn't have bells that go off for this level being accomplished. It's a path that goes step by step, without markers, without signs saying, oh, you've arrived. So I'm grateful today. I'm grateful for the mess. I'm grateful for the path. And I'm grateful for good companions along the way. So thank you. If you've made it this far and you're still listening, you know what to do. Like this episode, leave a comment, share it with one person you feel might benefit from it. Subscribe if you haven't already. It costs you nothing, but it's how this podcast keeps going. Thanks for practicing with me.